Today I'm joined by Matt Maitland. Matt is the owner and managing director of FT Group, which is a fleet maintenance company serving and supporting operators across the UK with diverse services. So, welcome, Matt.
Hi, Simon. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
You're
Well, yeah,
welcome. Thank you for joining us, Matt.
awesome.
Matt, look, I'd love to hear a little bit more. Tell us a bit more about FT Group and what you do.
Okay. So, as a group, we've recently split down into two companies, hence the group, just to sort of split our operations really. So, effectively, the company started as a mobile on-site only maintenance provider, providing on-site maintenance for predominantly started out as HGVs and vans, like commercial vehicles, but we've since sort of diversified and we deal with a large car market as well as the vans and the trucks and some specialist equipment. Um, and what became apparent somewhere down the line is that we needed a workshop base because some of the jobs that we were asked to do, they just needed a workshop because they were bigger stripped down jobs and needed more of a controlled environment to do it. So we ended up with a workshop in Ashford, which became this was all as one company originally. Sorry, and yeah, so we've sort of recently split it. So because the workshop can take on slightly different roles, we've now separated that as FT Engineering under the FT Group. So within that, as well as the usual maintenance that you associate with vehicle servicing and repairs, we can do some specialist stuff as well. So silly things like camera systems and new TFL DVS camera systems for the direct vision standards. But yeah, while we still have the mobiles covering the rest of the UK. So yeah, we sort of run them as two businesses under one roof at the moment.
Okay, and so was it right saying one was FT maintenance and the other one's FT engineering? Is that right?
Yeah, so we've got FT Fleet Management was what we set up for the mobiles because the idea at that point was to take on to help other customers if they needed certain help with the management of their maintenance. We can do that. We can facilitate that. I mean, most of our customer base manage it themselves anyway, but in recent months, we've sort of got some new customers that we've actually set up contract maintenance for. So that sort of gave us the vehicle to be able to do that. And our mobile operations now sit under FT Fleet Management, and that's headed by a department manager there. And then, yeah, and then we sort of so if there's anything that comes off the road that goes into workshop, that gets handed over and becomes somebody else's not problem, that's the wrong word, somebody else's challenge to deal with. So
like it. Like
yeah,
every problem's a challenge, isn't it? Like
yes, exactly that.
and also
Yeah,
an opportunity as well. There we go.
that's exactly what
Right.
it is.
Well, look, no,
So,
thanks for explaining that, Matt. So,
yeah.
um, so Matt, what one of the things I love to find out on these sort of discussions is um, what made you go into business? What made you become a business owner?
Necessity,
Ah, okay,
Simon.
yeah.
There was a period in my life where I was working for an independent garage, and it was failing. And I worked very close with the owner, and it was for various reasons the business ended up failing. There was stuff in the background that was out of the owner's control, and at the time, just through my things like mortgages and way of life, I felt the only way that I could sort of maintain that standard, I guess, at the time was for me to go self-employed and to sort of venture out on my own. So I took a payment holiday on the mortgage, so to take the pressure off of the early days of trying to generate business. And then, yeah, I think I finished up on the Christmas 2009 originally, and then on the January after everyone went back to work, just picked up the phone and started to generate some business, and it sort of snowballed from there, really. So
Well,
that's
that often is the case that people quite often don't always design to go into business, but circumstances sort of took them
Yeah.
there, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
So okay, so we're at Christmas 2009 or January 2009. You got on the phone, started
Yeah.
to generate some business.
Yeah.
How quickly did things start to grow for you? Where you know where you got to a point of actually this is now too much work for me to do on my own.
Okay, so there's two stages to it, Simon. So the very first time I went self-employed back in would have been yeah, I think it was January '09.
Yeah,
I think it was or January 10. I can't remember which year it was. I think it was January 10. So I finished '09, January 10. Um, I was running under a different name at that point. I ended up, ironically, the very first phone call I made was to a large rental company. And they immediately sort of took me on, and we talked about rates and what I could offer and what I could cover. They started giving me work, and then it kind of snowballed to the point where I ended up with two other guys working for me. I was in a van doing the mobile stuff, and then I had these other two guys working for me. And that lasted for a couple of years, and then I had an opportunity to go to Australia. So, for, rightly or wrongly, we up sticks. I passed that small sort of business across to one of the other lads. He was willing to take it on, and I went to Australia and it didn't work out. So we were there just under a year. We literally sold everything to give it a go. Took the family and came back. Still had contacts from the previous business. Once my toolbox had got shipped back to the UK, so I had to wait a couple of months for everything to come back.
yeah.
And then I was able to almost pick up with another one of our largest customers that we still do work for today, and because they wanted me to carry on doing the work for them. So I started up the second company, if you like, and that's kind of where we are. But I think I probably ticked over on my own for a year or so before I decided to push anything, because I didn't want to stand on the other guys' toes because they were still on the scene.
Yeah. Get it.
So I just stuck to what I was doing for about a year, and then just a chance telephone conversation, and it just spiraled. And then I think within 3 years, 2 or 3 years, I had 4 or 5 of us out on the road. Grew pretty quick, to be honest with you. Probably too quick, if I'm honest, but you sort of just deal with what's in front of you at the time, I think.
Absolutely. Okay. And so in this time of like, okay, so you've been to Australia, got back again, sort of setting up your your second business, starting to grow that, and starting to get team members on board, etc. What would you say that the biggest issue that you've had to overcome has been since you've been growing the business to where you are now?
So there's a couple of things really. So one of the challenges that you find, especially early on in a business, especially for I mean, it's not just exclusive to my business, but when you need vehicles and specialist equipment, and you need credit facilities with suppliers for expensive parts, getting credit for anything as a young business is really challenging. So you're literally robbing Peter to pay Paul constantly, while you're trying to build your business up, as well as trying to do credit control to make sure the money's still coming through the door. So that was definitely one challenge, and still today the biggest challenge in my industry is finding the right qualified, trustworthy staff. And I know that goes for any business, but because my business relies on selling man hours, manpower, man skills, or women skills, it's our industry has got a massive skill shortage in it, and it's probably the biggest challenge we have today, Simon, to be honest.
And what sort of things do you do to overcome that challenge? Because you're right, it is a challenge in various sort of industries, the shortage of manpower, and well, I should say person power, but also the right people. And that, when I say the right people, that's with the right skills and the right attitude. How do you overcome that? What do you do?
Do you ever overcome it? So I guess you have to give people a chance, because they tell you they can do the job. They don't always work out, and if the right people are on board but they're having challenges, then we look at ways to support them with that. Because I think one of the things, ultimately, I'm employing mechanics. That's what I do, and that's what we do. To find someone that can do work as a mobile mechanic is a lot different to finding someone who can be a workshop mechanic. It is a completely different job, because it's a different mindset. Because you're very isolated, you're on your own working out. You have to be quite autonomous, although you've got support in the background. You're face to face with every customer, every driver that you meet. So you have to be a good ambassador. You have to be good communicator. You have to work smartly, cleanly, and timely, because you then have to now drive to your next jobs. So there's a lot of factors. And one thing I've found is one of the biggest challenges is finding people that are conditioned to being mobile. That's the hardest one. Easier to find workshop techs, and it's easier to manage a workshop technician, because they're visible, they're under your nose, they're there, and you can support them every minute of the day if you need to. But it's it's just an ongoing challenge, really. But I think ultimately we look at training. So if someone needs support in a certain area, we look at the different sort of training packages for them, because it gives them the confidence as well, because they might be being asked to do something they're sort of okay with, but without that kind of official sort of grounding in that subject, they can go at it half-hearted. So I mean, we're always looking to support and grow the skill set of the team, really, and that's kind of how we deal with that.
One thing I always find with it's getting the right people is thinking about how they find you, thinking about why they would choose to work with you rather than somebody else.
It baffles me too. So
Right.
I have no idea. I mean, I think I treat people fairly. One of the things that I always, whenever I interview a technician, whether it's workshop or mobile, one of the things I always stand by, and I'll always tell them, is that I'll never ask them to do something I'm not prepared to do myself. And I will do that, and I will support them. So if there's a situation on a mobile job because the site is challenging or it's deemed as dangerous, and somebody in the office doesn't quite understand that, I will support them, because I've done it myself and I understand that. And I think that's possibly part of the success why I have quite a strong team, is because I do listen. I think I listen, and I think I'm pretty fair with everyone, as well as they know where I stand. So that's possibly part of the success.
Yeah, that's important, because it is. Look, attracting employees is I always look at it very similar to attracting clients, new customers. It is why would they want to work with you? What value are they getting through working with you? And it's all the same things. They feel as though you offer good service, feels as though they're looked after, and then that's how you retain them. By same as you retain customers and retain employees as well. And to me, we treat them very much the same. We've got a strategy, an employee, recruitment and engagement and retaining strategy, the same as we have a client marketing strategy. How do we get our clients, and how do we retain them, and how do we get more business? There should be a strategy for both. So great, great share. I like thank you for sharing that, Matt. And So what would you say your biggest learning has been since you've been in business?
It's my biggest learning. What is my biggest learning? I think one of the key things, ironically, we're doing a face-to-face, albeit electronically. But this is probably one of the most important things in business, is to talk to somebody, physically talk to them, rather than across emails and messages, to get to know the person, to look them in the eye, or just to, you know, just to communicate on a human level, not on an electronic level. That's one of the biggest things. And I've seen it all. I've gone from working with customers that have been big family owned, very companies that want to develop working relationships, to working for companies that don't really care for the relationships. All they care about is the bottom line, and you're just there to make sure that, you know, they make their profits. And, you know, and through all that, the best working relationships we have with our best customers are the ones that we have. They give us the time for face to face, and that's probably the biggest thing.
I think it's so important. I think and again, going back to strategies that I was just sort of saying, I think every business should have a customer service strategy. You know, they're very different, you know, whether it's customer services, customer journey, client journey,
Yeah.
you know, the same sort of thing. We should have a strategy for that, but also we should have a profit strategy as well.
Yeah.
Because they both rely on each other. You know, there's no good having a business that's really great at customer service and customer journey, but doesn't make any profit.
No.
And there's no good having a business that is great at generating profits, but doesn't have a customer service strategy. And the analogy I use for this, Matt, is it's like an aeroplane. An aeroplane's got to have two wings. It's got to have your customer service or customer journey strategy and your profit strategy. You know, if you imagine an airplane with only one wing, it's not going to fly very well.
No.
And the one that focuses on profit is going to start losing altitude, you know, gradually, as it starts losing clients, because it's not focusing on client strategy and how to retain them, and, you know, giving them a good customer journey. So I like that. You know, the communication with customers is really key.
Yeah, I think that's a great analogy. I think where I've sort of my mind is now going forward, and if we're looking for new business, we're not looking at them so much as clients, but we're looking for partnerships. You know, people that want to work with a company they can trust. And, you know, we're not always the cheapest because we have a profit strategy. So, you know, we've got to develop our staff. That costs money. We have to buy equipment. That costs money. But it's not all about that. It's about the trust and the relationship, so that whenever they ask us to go and attend a repair for them, they might be able to get it done cheaper, but at least they know we're going to turn up on time, we're going to be totally transparent, and we're going to do everything we can to get the vehicle done for them. And that's kind of our ethos, really. But it is the partnership that's now cements us when we're looking for new business.
You don't have to be the cheapest.
No.
You know, it's about, but it's being the best value.
Yes.
And doing what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. All of those things are really important. And research has shown that people will, not everyone, some people will always go for the cheapest. You know, that's what they want. They will always go for the cheapest. That's fine. By the way, some people will always go for the most expensive, because they perceive that if I buy the most expensive, it must be the best. But actually, the majority of people will go somewhere in the middle, which is the best value for money. And they will pay more than the cheapest if they know, like you said there, that you'll turn up.
You're getting the value.
That you know, you'll do the things that they need and want. And the other thing, whilst we're talking about sort of communication there as well, is I think it's key to use the right communication strategy in the right circumstances. You know, face to face is always personable and you know, really useful and helpful, and it gets engagement.
Yeah.
But actually, sometimes, depending on what it is you're communicating, a quick text, a quick email
Yeah.
could be right. But what we
Yeah.
shouldn't do is, and what I think you're alluding to here, is hide behind the
Yes.
electronic, send an
Yes.
email, always send an email. No,
Yeah.
emails don't, they might be quick and easy, but they don't always get the right message across.
No.
Um,
Right.
so yeah, I like great share as well. Thank you again, Matt. And look,
Yeah.
Matt, there's one question I always like to ask everybody that's kind enough to join me on this call, which is, what's the best advice that you would give to an 18-year-old you? So if you could go back and speak to yourself when you were 18, what would you say to yourself?
Um, for me personally, I would tell myself to have more confidence in my abilities,
Yeah.
and don't be shy to speak up. I probably took a long time to have that level of confidence. I think if you looked at an 18-year-old me, you would never see me with a business with nearly 30 employees.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I've always had some sort of inbuilt ambition, whether that's just to better myself. I don't know where that comes from, but I would definitely tell myself to be a bit more confident in my abilities. It's definitely
Great advice. Yeah, because some people, that'll resonate with some people watching or listening to this. Yeah, be confident in your
Mm,
abilities, be confident in yourself and what you do. And I think that's,
yeah,
and look, it's a great, like, I think, again, people watching and listening to this, you've said perhaps you lacked that when you were 18, but,
mm,
and as you just to reiterate what you said there, you've now got a successful business with, nearly 30 staff because you've overcome that.
yeah,
So, well done, Matt. I'm glad that,
yeah,
you focused on that and overcame that as well.
yeah. No worries. Yeah.
Well, look, Matt, I really
Mm.
appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today and sharing more about your business and also your journey as well. So thank you very much.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me again, Simon. It's been great. Thanks a lot.